Hello, and welcome to another episode of Open Faces. I'm your host, Mr. Mocha, and today we're going to do something a little different. Today, on this episode, I am going to share my experience of me sharing my wife's experience. Recently, a question was asked to me, how do you feel? What do you think? How do you experience your wife's play dates? Everybody is probably well aware now that Mrs. Mocha had some medical challenges for a while, so she wasn't really playing, and she has not been playing as much as often, but my wife had a play date. How do I feel about it? Well, I'm going to start from the beginning. So last week, I was working. My wife sent me a message, and she was having a shitty day. She was just having a really, really shitty day. And that was one of those days where I was having a rough day too. But, in my opinion, and in my world, if my wife and I are both having a shitty day, it's my job to put my shitty day to the side. So, she was quick. She started complaining about her day before I complained about mine. So I got home. When I walked into the house, I was expecting her to be having a moment. So, in true Mr. and Mrs. Mocha fashion, I walk in the house prepared to crack a joke. Her and I banter back and forth. So when one of us are having a rough day, well, hell, even when we're not having a rough day, what we do is we banter with each other. We make each other laugh. So I pulled up to the house, got out of the car, got to the top of the stairs, sucked in some air, and was preparing to go in the house and do or say something stupid that would make her laugh. But to my surprise, when I opened the door, I walk in, she's sitting on the sofa, and she's looking at her phone. I walk over, give her a kiss, but I slowed down and I aborted my plan because she had this look on her face, and it wasn't one of those looks that she has when she has a shitty day. I'm looking at her. Looks like she's trying not to smile. Her face is a little flush. So, I can tell when she's a little sexually excited. And I know at this point I've done nothing to get her worked up. So I said, what the fuck are you looking at over there? She said, don't you worry about it. So now I know that the bad mood is gone. I also know that don't you worry about it means that she's probably looking at some dick. Now, Mrs. Mocha on occasion will, go down the porn rabbit hole, but she hasn't done that in a while. So I'm like, maybe she's, seeing something that she likes. Her favorite porn star is, I think, Jason Love. So I was like, maybe she's looking at some Jason Love porn. And she looks up and she smiles. She's like, well, Pierce Dick is coming over. We have a nickname for everybody. So when she said Pierce Dick, I look at her, her eyes just light up. And now she can't contain the smile. I'm like, oh, when's he coming? Well, he'll be over on Tuesday. Okay. So now, at this moment, both of our shitty days are gone because I can see her excitement. And now that she has a play date set, which is something she hasn't been doing, she's looking at me and she sees my excitement. So I'm like, okay, really? She said, yeah, I've been messaging back and forth all day. And he's ready and I'm ready. I'm like, okay. He lives a good distance away. So now let's back it up to Pierce Dick. This guy is a real good looking guy. Tall, lean, ex-military. You know, he still works for the government. Super fit, super cool, relaxed, chill. You know, he's got this big monster dick that's pierced, which he's a better man than me. I can't even, the thought of stabbing my dick makes me nauseous. But my first thought, you know, it's like I have this mental flashback of the first time she played with the guy. The look on her face afterward. You know, she had this little kid just got everything they want for Christmas look on her face. You know, and sometimes Mrs. Mocha will tell a very bland story about a sexual experience. But this is one of those times, her first time, when she, you know, gave me all the juicy details. You know, oh my God, his dick was so big. He had the piercings on his dick, and the way the piercings were shaped, you know, they hurt so good. And, you know, he was so impressed because I can take all of his dick. And, you know, she's telling me about the different positions, you know. Well, I could take it in this position, I could take it in that position. And I rode him and he made me squirt. So this is the first time. So of course, when I find out that this is the person that's going to be coming over, which he's also a friend of ours now. He's a good friend. He's what I call the ideal, like, manicorn, just because he's super cool. But anyways, my excitement my excitement level is like rising because I know how excited she is now. So this was last week. So now to understand my banter with Mrs. Mocha's banter, you know, we don't even discuss our shitty days because now I know she's horny. I know she's worked up. So for the rest of the day, you know, I'm giving her a hard time, smacking her on the ass, squeezing her breast, you know, touching all over. You know, you can't wait for your date, huh? And, you know, she tried to play it cool, but it's been too long since she's had a date, so playing it cool was pretty much out the window. She was basically acting like a little schoolgirl, which makes it even better. So, working up to that day, because keep in mind, Mrs. Mocha had some medical issues once again, so she'd been nervous about a play date. On top of that, for her first play date, you know, she's jumping on a monster, you know, but, you know, she's like, well, I spoke to him, you know, and he knows that I got some medical things going on, and, you know, he promises not to kill me, which, let's be honest here, when Mrs. Mocha decides to get on the dick, she's gonna kill herself on it. That's just what she does. But I'm like, yeah, okay. So, you know, each day, you know, we're kind of talking about it. You know, we have sex, and before sex, this is probably a day or two after that. You know, I'm just laying in the bed, you know, we're cracking jokes. I'm like, hey, you can't wait to get that, huh? You know, have you talked to him? Have you messaged him? You know, she smiles, and Mrs. Mocha's not usually shy. You know, so she smiles, she laughs, and she's kind of telling me that they've been bantering back and forth, which is, you know, up in the excitement there. So, inside of my head, my excitement comes from her excitement. My excitement comes because, you know, there's this guy who checks off all of her boxes, and he's just excited about playing with her as she is about playing with him. And she's anticipating each day. Each day there's anticipation. So her and I, you know, she was saying, well, he may come over when you're at work. I said, okay, well, he comes over when I'm at work. You know, we know the guy, we trust him. I said, well, you know, if I'm working, I usually work with my headphones on. I said, you know, you can just call call while you're fucking and put the phone down if you want. So she starts laughing. So she's actually, him and her are messaging while her and I are having this conversation. So she messages him like, and tells him, well, you know, I think that, how would you feel about me calling Mr. Mocha while you're fucking me and just leaving the phone on? And he's like, really? That's a thing? I can do that? So now he's excited, she's excited, and she's excited because he's excited about doing it. So now she's like, the thought of doing that, we're constantly talking about that. But unfortunately, just so happens when he comes over, I'm actually not working. So, you know, he gets here yesterday during the day before I leave. And anytime he comes over, we hang out, we talk. And, well, you know something? I jumped too far ahead. So yesterday comes. You know, she's super excited, super nervous. And in the morning, she's like, you know something? I'm a little nervous. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take it. So I said, well, come here. So she comes over and she gets back in the bed. I said, well, I'll tell you what. How about I warm it up for you? Now, the one thing I do appreciate about my wife is not turning down my dick, you know. And the more excited she is, when she's excited, she can't get enough dick. So if it was up to her, I'd fuck her before she fucks somebody, while she's fucking somebody, and after she fucks somebody. But since it's been a while, I want her to really enjoy this experience by herself, because my wife will put on a show for me, and it's been a while, so I didn't want her to put on a show for me. I want her to put on a show for herself. So she's nervous. I get her in the bed. I tell her to get naked. And lay her next to me, and I'm asking her, are you excited? She's like, yeah. Tell me what you're excited about. Well, I'm nervous. Nah, I didn't ask you if you were nervous. Are you excited? Yeah, so she's excited. I like, once again, me and Mrs. Mocha, we always joke at the worst time. And, she's like, I like that big old pierced dick. This is why I love my wife. So I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you warm up on my dick? So, be the nice, sweet husband that I am, and I grab a handful of her hair and push her head down toward my dick, and she starts sucking my dick. And while she's sucking my dick, I'm asking her, you getting wet for later, aren't you? She speaks with her mouth full sometime. And she just said, mm-hmm. So I said, well, let me see how excited you are. Pulled her back up. Put my hand down there. She's like soaking fucking wet. I'm like, okay, oh, you're really excited. I don't think you're as nervous as you're saying you are. So I was like, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Because if I give her more than 5 minutes, she's going to be, I don't want her to be satisfied. I just want her to be like on the edge. So I lay down. She climbs on top. And I can usually tell how excited she is when she climbs on top of me. Because as soon as she slides down on top of it, she's ready to just fucking go wild. So I grab her hips, and I'm not going to let her go wild. I told her to be still. I just worked real slow in and out while she's made it just real slow up and down. I'm controlling her hips on top of me. And I can feel her body shuddering. Like I can feel her, she wants to go. Like I can feel her nails digging into my collarbones. I can see the look on her face. And, she leans forward and she just wants to go wild. And I'm like, oh, you are ready. You're not nervous. And she like whispering and shuddering. I am nervous. Like, you're not the kind of nervous you're acting like you are. And at this point, I can see that she's ready to come. And this is like literally 30, 40 seconds into it. So I stop her. And, that's when she knows that I'm not going to let her do it. She's whispering, please. I'm like, no. You got to play date today. So I roll her off of me. Get on top of her. Pin her arms down. I give her about 2 more minutes. Won't let her come. And then I stop. So if she wasn't ready before, now she's really ready. So I tell her, okay, go ahead and get yourself ready. Now, this is one of my favorite times when she's getting ready because I can see it. And at this point, she's flushed from her forehead to her, to her nipples with just heat. She's ready. She's horny. She's excited. So she goes in the bathroom. She starts her, her showering process, And, my wife's a natural redhead. So, every once in a while I tell her, listen, I want you to leave a little bit of fire down there for me. So she comes out. She's like, well, he might not like the fire. I'm like, okay, well, just go ahead and get rid of it for now. You can grow it back for me later. This is your first play date in a while. I want you to feel completely comfortable because if she's in her head about anything, she's in her head about, he might not like the little red fuzz that I like. I'm like, I don't want you in your head. Just go ahead and shave it off. So she does that. She showers and I'm watching her go through her routine. She lotions up. She's got the lotion that's got the good smell to it. She's doing her hair and, I step out of the room, but I come in and peek around because I can see her looking at herself in the mirror while she's doing her hair. She'll put her music on. I can see her shaking her ass a little bit. I can see a little bounce in her step. So the entire time that she's doing this, I know that she's anticipating. She's preparing. I know that her mind is flashing back to all the experiences she's had with this guy. And she comes out. After she's done her hair, she tries on one outfit. How do you like this one? Oh, I think it looks good. She's like, well, you don't like it? Well, it's not that I don't like it. I just like to see you with something that shows your nipples off a little more. And she's like, well, our house is always about 2 degrees, below Arctic. So she's like, well, I'm cold. So she has this sexy little outfit that has long sleeves. So she puts that on. And so how does it look? I like it. So she stands in the mirror. She's looking at herself. It's like she's looking at the fibers of the outfit. So I walk up behind her. And while she's looking in the mirror, reach around, rub my hands up, squeeze her breast, asking her, is she ready for that big pierced dick? And, she's like, yeah, I can't wait. So, all right, perfect. So we fast forward, she's gotten herself ready. Now she's getting anxious. It's been a while. I can tell she's almost ready to talk herself out of the cock, which she's not, but, I'm like, hey, don't talk yourself out of this. Don't talk yourself into not having a good time. So he shows up, and as usual, he comes in, he gives her a hug. Him and I start talking. So, she's sitting there, because him and I, we always talk. This guy is, he's a guy's guy. So, he comes in and we're literally talking about, he had just got an injury. We're talking about how I got the injury, and she always likes to sit back for a minute and watch us talk. So I'm sitting on a chair, and he's standing up, leaning on something. And the whole time I keep side-eyeing her, and she keeps looking at his pants. It's cracking me up. So, she looks at his pants, and so he's telling us about, different martial arts injuries, that, some recent injuries, some recent work injuries. And just because of the nature of his job, he's an adrenaline junkie. So he works in the field where, he gets to blow through some adrenaline on a regular basis. And I can tell she's getting excited while he's talking about how he just got this recent injury. And since I can see that she's getting excited by it, I'm asking more questions about it. And, you know, he's very quiet by nature. He's not shy at all, but he's not a braggart. You know, he's not the kind of person that's going to volunteer things, you know. So because he's so cool and smooth and laid back, and, you know, we're talking about how he got injured, you know, he's just recovering, and, you know, he's already back into the thick of things. And she's like standing there. She's sitting on a chair pretending like she's on her phone, but I can see her keep looking up. You know, I'm looking at her. I can see her breathing hard. I can see her trying her best not to squirm, you know. So finally, after about 20, 25 minutes of us having this conversation, you know, I look over her and I said, you okay over there? She's like, I'm fine. I said, hey, I think she's about ready. So at this point, I actually did have to go and pick up some equipment for work. So I said, well, listen, if I'm not here when you get back, you know, just make sure that you know, work her over the way she needs it, because she's overdue for a thorough punishment. So of course she laughs, he laughs, and, you know, they head to the basement. So I'm changing clothes, getting ready to leave, and I can hear, before I walk out of the house, I can hear her moaning all the way upstairs. So I'm like, okay, I know she's there. So I go run my errands. Do the things that I have to do. And about an hour and a half later, she texts me, are you still here? No, I'm not here. You know, Mrs. Mocha is not really like she's not like one of those women who want to be fucked for an hour and a half. That's just not what she does. You know, she just wants some, you know, with her, you know, a good 20, 25 minutes is usually good. So now the fact that she just messaged me, there's an indication that she's really enjoying herself. And, you know, I sent the question, the most important question always, how is it? And then she sends back, I'm about to go for a round 2. For Mrs. Mocha, that's a huge thing. You know, usually if it's a round 2, it's because there's another dick there. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to, I stopped and got something to eat. So I stopped. At this point, I'm in rush hour traffic, stopped, grabbed some food, sat in the restaurant. And I'm sitting there in the restaurant and I'm like rock hard thinking about how much fun my wife is having right now. So I finish eating, literally stand up, and then she texts me. She's like, I drained him. He's all done. Which to me is fucking awesome. All right. When she sends back, I drained him. Okay. Perfect. She asked what I was doing. All right. She said, I told her I was grabbing some food. I placed the order for her and I got home. And here's the thing. If I walk in the house, I can see the second I see her how satisfied she was. So I walk into the house and she's trying to pretend like she's not extremely satisfied. You know, she's trying to, you know, give me the, okay, it was okay thing. And I'm looking at her and I lift the eyebrow and then the huge smile. You know, she's smiling from fucking ear to ear. You know, her face is still red. You know, I can just see it. And then she tells me, you know, she breaks into, she's excited to tell me what happened. You know, she's like, oh my God, Daddy, it was so good. You know, so now, of course, I'm standing there. And then, you know, her and I, we play this, you know, our banter constantly. And I'm like, oh my God, I am so jealous. I can't believe you did this. I said, I thought you guys were just having a Bible discussion. So, you know, we're laughing. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go take a nap. And that, you know, whenever I say I'm going to take a nap, because I'm not really a napper, I'm going to take a nap. So she's like, well, what'd she say? Everything is getting blurry now because, you know, at this point, my dick's hard as a missile. And now she's excited. So she's trying to tell me the story while I'm heading to the bedroom. She's getting undressed. I get undressed. You know, she gets in the bed. And I climb on top of her. I open her legs. And I told her to tell me about her date. So as you can see, I'm always very excited about my wife's good time. And hopefully, this means that Mrs. Mocha is officially back on the horse. So that's just me sharing with you guys. Sharing my experience of my wife's experience. And the reason I shared the experience is because I did have somebody recently ask, well, how do you deal with your wife playing? For me, the level of pleasure I get from watching my wife or knowing that she's having pleasure, it's not really a case of dealing with it. You know, that's kind of like saying, you know, how do you deal with enjoying your favorite food? How do you deal with driving your favorite car? How do you deal with watching your favorite movie? You're not really dealing with it. It's something that you want. It's something that you enjoy. You know, for me, being in a lifestyle, we get into this lifestyle to enjoy it. And to me, it would be a waste of my time, a waste of my energy, and a waste of this community if I got into this lifestyle with my wife and told her, I want you to enjoy it, kinda. You know, everything here is a state of mind. Since I get joy and pleasure from it, I can't say that I'm dealing with it. So for me, it's very difficult to answer that question from the place, knowing the place you're asking it from. You know, we can talk about the many conversations that I've had with many people who have to deal with their spouse having sex with somebody else, but I don't have to deal with my spouse having sex with somebody else. You know, now I have a hard time dealing with my spouse playing with somebody and her not enjoying herself. You know, but when a guy who she's extremely turned on by, you know, who knows the rules of engagement when it comes to dealing with couples, who's going to completely sexually satisfy her, comes to play with her, I'm not dealing with that. I'm enjoying that. I'm looking for that. You know, so in this episode, answering the question, how do I deal with it? It's not really what I can do. But I can tell you, how do I feel about it? I still feel high today. My wife is still high today. You know, she's upstairs on a conference call. And when I walked past her before I started this podcast, I can still see the excitement on her face. And you best believe I will be reaping the benefits of that excitement, you know, when she goes on her lunch break today. So I hope you guys out there who understand how I feel, you know, the ones who understand it, I hope you're getting the most out of it. The ones who are trying to deal with it, I would just say, focus on shifting your mind. Shift your mind to a place where you are putting yourself in her position. And when I say putting yourself in her position, that's obviously not in a literal sense. But if you got into this lifestyle, do you want your wife to be happy for you when you play with someone who you want to play with? Or if you're not in a relationship where you play and you both decide to get into this, how much fun do you think your wife is having if she thinks that you're not enjoying her experience? Just think about that. Until next time, everybody, thanks for hanging out with me here on Old Faces. I'm your host, Mr. Mocha, and we'll be talking to you again soon.